Okay, welcome back to the Mental Toughness Podcast.org. O-R-G, Mental Toughness Podcast.org. Go to the website and subscribe, and we'll send you an email every week telling you about the new episode. We come out once a week. And so I'm Steve Siebold, your host, and today I want to talk about a topic that a lot of people don't like to talk about. But if you're going to be mentally tough or you're going to coach mental toughness with someone, this is a must. This is absolutely a must topic you have to talk about. Every team I've ever coached, sports, business, you name it, entrepreneur teams, entrepreneurs, has to have this one topic. And I call it the power of negative thinking. Not the power of positive thinking. Vincent Peale, as a side note, was a good friend of my late business partner, the great Bill Gove, the father of professional speaking, the purveyor of the Bill Gove Speech Workshop, train more top professional keynote speakers. We run the program now here at Bone Allen Mansion in Atlanta. And he was good friends. He traveled around the world with Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote, of course, the famous Power of Positive Thinking with W. Clement Stone, who was another friend of my business partner, Bill Gove. And so that was a great book. It is a great book. If you haven't read that book, it's a great book. Okay, but it focuses completely on positive thinking. And if you go out in the world and you're trying to build something, you're trying to do something, and all you have is positive thinking, you are going to get your head handed to you. You need to have the power of negative thinking that coincides with the power of positive thinking. Okay, for example, in the world of finance, which I've been working as a vendor for 20 plus years, I wrote a book called How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker with Tom Matthews. And I've done, 250 television shows about the basics of personal finance through this book. One of the things we talk about in that world, the financial world, is, when you're talking about investing specifically, there's a saying that people say that really is the power of negative thinking. They say, you don't manage the upside of an investment, because the upside takes care of itself. You manage the downside. You look for the threats, like you do as an entrepreneur. You look for the threats. You look for the places you could lose money. You look for the places you could lose your team. There are places you could lose everything. You're always looking for the threats. Now, you're also looking for the positive things. You're looking for the opportunities, of course. I'm not suggesting that you just think negatively, because that would be a horrible existence, for one thing. And who wants to think negatively all the time? I mean, it'd be terrible. It'd be a terrible way to have your consciousness floating in thoughts of negativity and lack and fear and all that. So you balance the positive thinking with the negative thinking, and that makes a huge difference. But what do you focus on most as a performer? Well, to motivate yourself, you think about positive things to generate positive emotion. To protect yourself, you think about negative things and you look for threats. That's as simple as it gets. It really is. But you need both. You really need both. The people you hear out there saying they're the positive thinkers, and that's all they do is talk about positive thinking. That's really great, and it's fun, and it feels good, and it's like a warm cup of hot chocolate in the freezing cold winter. I get it. But it's not enough. There are threats all the time, and you've got to be aware of what those threats might be, how close they are to you, and how dangerous they may become. You've got to be aware of both sides. You've got to sleep with your eyes open, both eyes open, as they say, because it makes such a big difference. So managing the downside, identifying threats, preparing yourself is another one. Preparing yourself emotionally for things like criticism, for one. If you're a public figure, you get out there in the public, you're working with people. I work in the media all the time. People say, why do you work at the media? Because I get out to millions of people every single year with my books and my message and my interviews that I do on TV and other sources of media. And it's my advertising. I'm all over the place because of it. It gets me to a number of people I can't get in any other way. So it's great. And they say, well, that's fantastic. What's the downside? Criticism. Because now you're out there saying, here's what I think. Here's what I think you should do. Here's what I think the way it should be. Here's my solution to the problem. And people say, well, I think you're an idiot. Okay. Well, you're not hiding. You're not an actor playing a role. This is really what you think. You're not Brad Pitt playing a new role in a new movie. He could say, well, that's the character. I don't believe that. The character said that. I'm in a movie. I'm an actor. Well, unless you're an actor. Yeah, that's different. But I'm not an actor, and you're probably not an actor. And so we say what we think. And when people criticize us, well, they're criticizing us directly. And so you have to learn to deal with criticism. That's the only downside. And criticism is a funny thing. You I think it's really funny because in the beginning, it stings when you're not used to it. And then you get used to it and you don't feel anything, hardly. I mean, it's more fun to get praise and criticism, but if you get enough of it, it's you desensitize. It's just a process that psychiatrists call systematic desensitization. Systematic desensitization. You just desensitize from people that don't agree with you. It just doesn't matter to you anymore. So there is a point where it's not a problem, but that is something to consider. Criticism. So preparing yourself emotionally for losses, okay, in business, in sports, that's one of the things we're going to talk about on another show is one of the keys to, I think, being mentally tough is learning how to lose. A lot of people don't know how to lose. I mean, they're just poor losers. I was playing tennis with a friend of mine named Marcel. He's a good guy. He drives over to the mansion here, the Bone Island mansion here where we live, once a week to play tennis with me. We have a Hard-True court here on the property that we put in a few years ago. And he comes out. He lives about 20 minutes away, and he comes out. He works for Coca-Cola. He's a great guy. And so he drives over once a week, and we play late at night, and we played. So we played the other night, and he beat me. And I came off, and my wife said, "Did you win?" And I said, "I won when I stepped on the court." I said, I'm just glad to be out there playing. And not only that, but I'm playing on my Hard-True court, which if you're not a tennis player is the best surface in tennis. I mean, that's arguably true, but in my opinion, it's the best surface. That's why I put it in. And it's just a softer surface. It's great. Go out there at night. We have LED lights that light up the whole court. We have a tennis cottage has a giant deck that seats about 50, 60 people. It's a dream. It's a dream for a tennis player. I said I won when I walked on the court. It doesn't matter what the score is. I already won. I don't have to win the match. I just have to be there. And that's a belief, right? And so that kind of viewing the world, viewing winning and losing, whatever that is, whether it's sports or it's business or it's money or it's relationships, the way you frame the world will determine your level of mental toughness. If you're coaching someone, the way you teach them to frame the world and their performance in that sport or that business or that relationship or whatever you're coaching them to do will determine their level of mental toughness. People say, what did you do as a mental toughness coach when you coach all these teams and everything? You got to teach them how to think. Almost like a machine. And what does that mean? It means you teach them to think and see the world through the lens of objective reality. Here's an example. Let's say you're coaching someone or it's you personally and you just lost a ton of money on some business deal and you're in trouble. You're in a bad spot financially because you took a bath on some deal. Happens in business all the time. If you're in the game, you win some, you lose some. That's the way it works. And now you're just in that spot or your client's in that spot where they're panicky and they're embarrassed to themselves, embarrassed maybe to their company. They're just feeling bad. You go up to them and how do you coach someone like that? I get these questions all the time. So I don't know how to coach someone like that. What do you say? Here's what you tell them. You say, look, this is how business works. This is I'm giving you the reality. Okay, now this is how I would coach them. And I did this for years. Here's the reality. Okay, this is how business works. Some you win and some you lose. I don't care if you're Bill Gates or Bill Jones or Elon Musk, or Elon Jones that lives down the street. He's a welder. And it doesn't matter who you are. You win some and you lose some. The only way you don't lose is if you're not in the game. Okay, so if you're in the game, whatever the game may be, you're going to have times when you lose. And by the way, let me remind you, Mr. or Mrs. Client, while you're feeling bad about losing this money, be reminded of a reality. Okay, and if you don't believe me, you can check it out. Every 7 seconds, a child starves to death somewhere in the world. Let me say it again. Every 7 seconds, somewhere in the world, a child starves to death. and you just look at them, and you're worried about all this money? Can you imagine what it's like to starve to death? I mean, your body is so malnourished that it shuts down. The organs just fail. Can you imagine how painful that must be? That happens every 7 seconds. Every 7 seconds. A child, not a bad guy, not some person that did something wrong. A little child that did nothing wrong starves to death. And you're worried about all this money. You're worried about losing a tennis match. You're losing a golf game, or a tournament, or a basketball game, or fill in the blank. It doesn't even matter what it is. Here's objective reality, Mr. or Mrs. Client. Let's frame things up the way things really are, not the way you see the way you're looking at them. Okay, this is reality. This is the real world. Okay, and all of a sudden they go, oh, well, yeah, I never thought about that way. Well, you need to start thinking about that way, because next time you lose, it won't feel like it does now, and you'll bounce back 10 times as fast. That's how you get mentally tough. It's one of the ways. That's what they pay you to do when you're a mental toughness coach, is knows what they're doing. You teach people to frame the world in a different way. And because they frame it in a different way, they behave in a different way. And it makes all the difference in the world. The last one with the power of negative thinking I want to address is this concept of overcoming approval addiction, or the emotional addiction, psychological addiction of the approval of others. This is a big one. Studies show that almost 100% of us are addicted to approval, 7 being the most severe, 1 being least severe. Most of us rate a 7. We are severely addicted to the approval of other people. We almost need it like a drug, and to be happy. And it's obviously limiting, severely limiting. So how do you overcome the addiction to approval of other people? How do you coach someone to overcome it? You put them in reality, just like you do every time. You show objective reality to them right in their face, and you say, let's look at reality. You really think other people care about what you do or don't do? I mean, really. And I'm laughing. This is exactly what I used to do with clients. I say, really? You really think the world cares about what you do, whether you win, whether you make money, whether you lose money, whether you get the person you wanted to marry or you don't, or you lose them, or she breaks your heart or he breaks your heart? You really think anyone really cares about that? Are you kidding me? No, I'm not saying no one cares. Maybe your mother cares, okay? Maybe your best friend cares. Maybe your siblings care. Maybe not. But we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. You know what other people care about? They care about themselves. That's what they care. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We all do it. They're worried about their own lives. Okay, they're not thinking about you, or they're not thinking about me. They shouldn't be. They should be thinking about themselves and trying to, boost their own lives and get better and improve themselves and be happier and more at peace and all those good things. So they're not thinking about us. It's a delusion, is my point, to believe that other people are judging us or thinking about it. If they judge us or thinking about us, it's for a very, very short period of time. So as a result, approval addiction makes absolutely no sense. It's nonsensical at its root, because people don't care about what we do or say or whatever. They may, very briefly or, for a split second. Then they're on to thinking about their own lives, right? We're all trying to, you got enough handling your own life, much less trying to worry about other people's lives. Oh, people gossip and all those kinds of things because, it makes them feel superior and that type of thing. But that's about it. No one really cares. Okay. I had a friend the other day say, Matt, he's a financial guy. So, it makes a difference the kind of car you drive if you're a financial pro. And I looked him straight in the eye. I said, you're kidding yourself. You made this up. I said, let me tell you something. I've had a lot of financial pros help me over the years in my companies and with my own money, and I could care less what they drive. Now, okay, if they pull up in a car that looks like it's 100 years old and it's going to fall apart, I might think, well, maybe they're not real successful in what they do, or maybe I'll have a judgment of some kind. I might be concerned. Or on the other end of the spectrum, if they pull up in a Rolls Royce that costs $400,000, I'm thinking, they're making a little too much commission on me. Okay. But if they pull up in a Honda, or they pull up in a Kia, or they pull up in some normal car, Ford F-150, I don't think twice about it. I don't think anyone does either. Unless it's a major extreme. I don't think anybody cares. And at the extremes, they probably don't care. Okay, this guy said, no, you got to have a Mercedes. You got to have, something fancy or an Audi or, something really, really high end. And I said, you are living in fantasy land. You're living in fantasy land. Nobody cares. You're thinking people care and they don't. They're worried about themselves. They're worried about their own car, not your car. Okay? I said, so don't go out and spend a bunch. The guy wanted to spend a bunch of money he didn't have. And I go, don't be stupid. I said, don't be dumb. If you want to do it, just be reckless with your money, then do it. You're a financial guy. I hope you were a little smarter than that with your money, but it's your money. But don't think it's going to make a difference. You're kidding yourself. Okay? That's how you coach people in mental toughness. Now, again, do people sometimes become offended? Yeah. Yeah, I've spent my whole life doing this. Of course they become offended. It's like when people debate me, I'll do a television show or radio shows. It happens mostly on radio, and I haven't been doing that for a while. But years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago and more, I used to do a lot of debates on radio, and people would debate me. I'd say, you don't want to debate me. I do this for a living. It's all I do is fight with people and fight with teams and corporations and do turnarounds for big companies. All I do is go back and forth. I do this for a living. I get paid to debate, okay? Because I'm used to people pushing back, because in mental toughness, you're pushing people's buttons. Not for the sake of pissing them off. That's what people think a lot of times. But it's not. It's not at all for the sake of pissing them off. That doesn't do any good. You're pushing their buttons to wake them up because they're sleeping. Low-performing teams is where I spent most of my corporate career. Those people are still talented. They got hired somehow. They're not dumb, and they're not untalented. They're not unskilled. They're asleep. I don't mean literally. I mean figuratively speaking, psychologically speaking, they're asleep at the wheel. They're framing the world and what they do and the products that they represent in a very different way, in a low-performing way. And my job is to come in and shake them up. And the first thing we do is slap them proverbially, in the proverbial way, slap them in the face and say, wake up, or you're going to lose your job. Here it is. You're a low-performing team. It's got to go to the mid or upper mid, to stay employed. So you got to kind of slap them. So that's part of the job. All right. So whether you're doing this for yourself, you're doing it for your kids, you're coaching someone as a mental toughness coach, just realize the power of negative thinking is invaluable. It has to be there. There's just no way you can live just on positive thoughts. It's not fun to think negatively. I get it. It's fear-based and it's not fun, but it's necessary. It really does. It really will. It really is, because it'll save you. It will protect you. Or the person you're coaching. It'll protect them. Positive thinking gives you opportunity. You start moving forward. It's fun. It feels good. It's emotional rush, and all that. So together, they're magic. Together, they're magic. But everybody likes the power of the positive thinking, but not negative thinking, but it certainly is necessary. Okay, I won't go on more about that, but I strongly recommend reading Norman Vincent Peale's book, but then also considering the power of negative thinking as well. Okay, so remember to subscribe if you like the show. We appreciate you listening. I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, a lot of people to listen to, but I appreciate your time. Go to mentaltoughness.podcast.org. Subscribe. We'll send you the link every week, and you won't miss an episode. Okay, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.